It is crazy to think that the iPhone 4 has been released 10 years ago. It was the first iPhone to have a different design since the original iPhone. It was revolutionary in almost every way, with its most hyped feature being the retina display. This is my review of the iPhone 4 10 years later. Starting with the build quality, the iPhone 4 still looks and feels very premium. It is made of glass in front and back with a stainless steel frame. It still has a more premium build quality than most of the mid-range smartphones of recent years, and because of its small size, it is easily manageable in one hand. It has big bezels in every side of the front, but so does the iPhone SE released in 2020, but they are more pronounced here because of the smaller display size of the iPhone 4. My unit has a lot of scratches and the home button barely works, but considering this is a 10-year-old phone, I think it is still acceptable. One of the things that hasn't aged well in this phone is the display. It has a 3.5-inch LCD display, which is extremely small in 2020. You can barely do anything in this display. Typing in this phone is very challenging, and so is watching content. In 2010 maybe it was the best display in a smartphone, but in 2020 it is almost unusable. Since I've been using this phone for a long time, you can see the display has started to have burn-in spots. The iPhone 4 has the same 326 ppi as the iPhone SE and the iPhone 11, but of course the quality is much worse. Probably the biggest reason why this phone is so unusable in 2020 is the software. The last update of this phone is iOS 7.1.2 of 2014. It has also the old Apple A4 chip inside, and it barely can open stock iOS apps. Third-party applications are also more CPU intensive than they were back when the iPhone 4 was released, and most of them don't even support this phone anymore. This, as well as the phone's limited specs, make for a sluggish performance. The iPhone 4 has a 5-megapixel rear camera, and of course the results aren't near compared to today's standards. In daylight, pictures aren't sharp and have no dynamic range at all. In low light, this camera is just unusable. Videos are also very bad. It can only shoot at 720p at 30 frames per second without any stabilization at all. On the front it has a VGA camera, and it was bad even in 2010, let alone now in 2020. Pictures are very blurry with a lot of noise. The difference with the recent iPhones is just astonishing. You can see for yourself in this quick camera comparison between the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So this is the camera comparison between the iPhone 4 of 2010 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max of 2019. On the iPhone 4 we are shooting at 480p at 30 frames per second. On the iPhone 11 Pro Max we are shooting at 4K at 60 frames per second. We have now switched to the rear cameras, and as you can see we have a very big difference in terms of quality. On the iPhone 4 we are shooting at 720p at 30 frames per second. On the iPhone 11 Pro Max we are shooting at 4K at 60 frames per second. The iPhone 11 Pro Max has also an ultra-wide camera, and you can see how much more you can capture in the frame. With the iPhone 11 Pro Max we also have a 2x telephoto zoom camera. The iPhone 4 can't do any zoom at all. The iPhone 4 doesn't have a face or fingerprint scanner. The only way to protect this phone is with a PIN or a password. It doesn't also have any special features. It only has a single firing speaker, no fast charging or wireless charging. The battery life on this phone is also very bad. It wasn't good even when it launched, and by today's standards it is pretty much trash. Surprisingly, the standby time is still very good. So is the iPhone 4 still usable in 2020? The answer is no. You can still do calling or messaging, but the technology is evolving very fast, and every day we need features that this phone doesn't have. It is outdated in almost every category. Sure, the build quality is still good, but the display isn't, and neither is the performance, the camera or the battery life. But the iPhone 4 still remains one of the most iconic smartphones of all time. If you did enjoy this video, a thumbs up would be appreciated. Thank you for watching.